they are, they've left the aircraft. Watch for them free-falling for a few seconds, and they are the first canopy. All of the canopies are open. Count them, there should be 9.
Well, he's got off the wheel. He's got off the wheel.
Surface wind 13.
No, that's
Now that voice you can hear is the voice of the team coach, Flight Sergeant Andy Wright, talking to the rest of the parachutists as they come down. You note there's a Royal Air Force pencil, the number 2. These parachutes are the Fury Ram Air parachute. And they've also got a reserve canopy, which obviously none of them had to use. Each of the jumpers carries 2 alligators. See the RAF on the underside of the canopies. The first man down is just down now. That's Flight Sergeant Andy Wright, the team coach, closely followed by Sergeant Ash Boone. Number 3, Sergeant. From Hangar 11 at North Wheel, and that'll be flying at about 26 minutes past. Then it's the Royal Air Force Jaguar, and that takes us up to 1:30, which is when the Royal Air Force aerobatic team, the Red Arrow, fly. I hope to see him pull into the vertical and do what they call a quarter clover, which will bring him back onto the main display line. He being the pilot, Flight Lieutenant Pete Griffiths, and his navigator, Flight Lieutenant Matt Brasani, of 15 Reserve Squadron. An aileron roll as he comes towards us now. He's doing his flatter display today. Today he can't do his full displays. There isn't quite enough room beneath the clouds, so he's doing his rolling display, and he's just coming in back. An oblique max rate turn. In the turns, Derek will be maintaining 350 knots whilst pulling 6G, which should give him an effective weight of over 500 kilos. So here he goes up for the first derry and into the first turn. Checking the cockpit, making sure that everything is functioning correctly, and of course perpetually checking orientation. 90. Today with the cloud base, more likely that we'll see Derry wing over right towards crowd centre. Round he comes. And there's the Derry. Joined the Royal Air Force in 1994 after being at Southampton University Airport. He now has over 2,000 hours to his credit, split predominantly between the Jaguar and the Hawk. And during his time with the Jaguar, he's flown several combat missions in Utterly brake. Flying for nearly 30 years, the last 19 as a professional pilot. And the number 2, Martin Carrington, plenty of experience flying vintage aircraft. Amassed an amazing 6,000 flying hours flying beautiful aircraft, similar to flying with Martin is Libby Nova, 19-year-old captain, just for flying Saturday. Yes, they've definitely left there on top of the wing station. And now they're standing between the fuselage and the wing. Give them a big wave, please. So, Lieutenant Commander Russ Equell, flying this amazing aircraft, was elected to do his rolling display. He hasn't got enough height to do his full display. He'll be flying in on the 45-degree in line towards us, and then when he gets to the display centre line, he'll turn his left through 90 degrees to head out on the 45-degree away off to our right. An amazing silhouette of that aeroplane. Now that manoeuvre is called a derry. Big, wide barrel roll. And what a charming little noise from that engine, the Rolls-Royce D103. 2 holes just behind the wings on either side of the fuselage. That gives the advantage of being able to have a big fuel tank in the back of the fuselage. Manoeuvre, rolling the aircraft out after he's done 3/4 of the way through a loop. And once he goes away on the 45-degree line away, see if he does the same thing again. I think he's going to. He must have found the height, the cloud base is going up, that's all a good sign. So there he is, pulling up into a loop, but when he gets the thing upside down over the top, and then down onto about a 45-degree slope down, he just rolls the aircraft out so it comes out the right way up. This was the ultimate British piston engine fighter, the last before the jets came in. angle, meaning the cylinders, instead of being in line like they are in a car engine or opposed, they're spread around in a circle around the central crankshaft. That engine produces 2,500 horsepower, 5-bladed propeller, and the propeller itself is nearly 13 feet in diameter. Single-seat fighter aircraft, first flew in 1944. The idea of this aircraft actually originated when a German Focke-Wulf 190 was captured in 1942. This is actually a lightweight but very powerful radial engine fighter, once again designed by Sir Sidney Cass. It fairly rapidly became the fastest single-engine propeller-driven aircraft ever produced. And an American-owned civilian Fury held the world piston engine speed record for a while, was eventually overtaken by a Bearcat. RA trailing red smoke to the cloud base. Close aboard, due 12 o'clock. Trailing red, white and blue. Continuing formation. They fly with at 2 o'clock. Up to the cloud base at 4 degrees nose up for the steep climb. Their smoke goes off and straight ahead to you at 12 o'clock for the nose lights. The red 6, 7 to your right and left. It's a Jimbo path. Red 9 is fully induct Mason in his third year with the team. He's our executive officer, basically our second in command. Enid have now been called into reverse battle formation. When you join the team, you either fly the right-hand side or the left-hand side of the formation. They're now on their incorrect sides. So Red 1 has called them into leaders benefit formation. In your 1 o'clock, they're now slalom behind each other. The nose and tail separating just 6 feet. As if they're down a toboggan run or a bobsleighler, take up leaders benefit. Beautiful view of Enid formation in your 11 o'clock. That's Enid in the leaders benefit band. As you depart in your 2 o'clock look to your left hand side. Red 6 is now flying the inverted bar roll, minus 2.5 times the force of gravity. Weightless in his seat harness, mirror image by Red 7. While Red 8 and 9 fly perfect formation. Red 8 9 roll back into the formation using blue smoke as they complete the mirror. He's an authorised display pilot by the CAA with about 5,000 experience, and he spends most weekends away during the summer displaying all these wonderful aircraft all around the country. Peter Teichmann's base is at North Weald in Essex, where he runs what he calls the Hangar 11 collection. And his Spitfire is actually the world's only airworthy Mark 11 Spitfire built in 1944. This aircraft, his very pretty little stagger wing, was actually a US Navy version. But it was delivered to the British Fleet Air Arm in 1944. And the stagger wing is just touching down. Captain Flight Lieutenant Andy Lugger sitting in the left-hand seat, co-pilot Flight Lieutenant Trev Waller. They're both instructors on the training flight for the Hercules C-130J. feet and turned downwind, we'll see the cargo door open at the back of the aircraft. And that's because when this aircraft gets back down on the ground, which it will do on its next circuit, they'll be offloading 2 Land Rovers. Now there'll be a crew of mobile air movement personnel down the back of the aircraft. And they're having to work very hard just at the moment to get these Land Rovers out in the short time the aircraft will be on the ground. Cargo door is now open. Now as soon as the aircraft is on the ground, we'll hear the crew call red light on. That means that the mobile movements personnel will be able to release the armed restraint chains on the vehicles. And then once the aircraft is slowing down, the air load master lowers the ramp to the horizontal position. So let's wait to see all that happen. You'll notice as the aircraft lands that the propellers go into reverse pitch, these big 6-bladed propellers on this new version of the Hercules, the J model. Propellers will go into reverse pitch and the aircraft will stop very quickly. There's the reverse pitch, aircraft slowing right down. Pointing the ramp towards us. Quickly as that, 2 Land Rovers out. If you're close enough, you'll have seen the tow ramp put down by 2 of the air movement team, and then the tow ramp folded up, the ramp brought back up, and the aircraft is then able to reverse up the runway so to take off in absolute minimum length of ground movement. Swimming Land Rovers, driven by 2 of the movement team. The air movement team, 7 of them, 5 down. Team leader Sergeant Paul Craig, Corporal Matt Atkins, SAC Stu Helen, Harry Harrison and Clarky Clark, and the drivers, Corporal Andy Holloway and SAC Craig A. Smith. So now the Hercules with its remaining 3 crew, and of course the 5-man people, captained by Lieutenant Andy Lugger, co-pilot Martin Waller, and the crewman Sergeant Bud Simpson, taking the aircraft off. A short, rapid takeoff. There it goes. Taking off in about the same place that it actually came to a stop. They get the wheels down on these occasions, in case, of course, they happen to touch down on one of these events, because they're not going to touch down from 100 feet today, but they will have the wheels down. There you can see the ramp open, and you can see those tow. And there is the loadmaster at the back of the aircraft, Sergeant Bud Simpson. So closing the ramp doors now, getting the wheels up. For its first 40 years of life until the mid-90s, the C-130 gradually developed longer range, better payload, better fatigue life and more reliability. And its models ranged from the C-130A through to the H, with foreign versions like the British one called the K. But in the mid-90s, an entirely new version appeared, the C-130J. J's are very different. New Rolls-Royce Allison turboprop engines, 6-bladed composite simple engine control system that increases takeoff thrust by nearly 30%. And here they are going by with them in that free dropping configuration. Because the aircraft is so much more fuel efficient, it means they no longer need the big fuel tanks under the wings that the earlier models had. That when you look at an earlier model, and we'll see one from New Zealand later this afternoon, it sometimes looks as if it's got 6 engines because there's 2 big tanks between the engines under the wings. If you compare the J model, this one, to the E model, which we're going to see later, the maximum speed's up 21%, about 400 miles an hour, and the time to climb is down by half. Cruising altitude's 40% higher, the range is 40% greater. From Andy Lugger and Trev Waller. So, 2 Lynx HAS-3s of the Royal Navy, of number 702 Naval Air Squadron, based at Yeovilton, and watch this opposition cross as they go away from us, and then cross over on the far side. Coming back towards us, pulling up into a high position to nose over, and watch how steeply they go down, these two. These two being Lieutenant Steve Gamble is the lead pilot. Lieutenant Simon Borley is number 2. Flying with Steve is Lieutenant Andy Dowling. Flying with Simon is Lieutenant Sean Eniver. And pushing the aircraft over the top. There they go, coming down now. Whoa. That takes 50 cars and we go to the runway. Together at the centre on the datum of the display. That's Steve Campbell. So one aircraft goes down and actually lands on, while the other aircraft stays airborne. And they do a synchronized turn together. Cosford, go. So this is something that the Army Lynxes, which we're going to see before too long, can't do, because the Army Lynxes have skids, but the Navy Lynx have wheels, so the Navy can turn their aircraft on the ground. I suppose this is just a kind of gotcha for the Army. This manoeuvre. 270, 30, big. So now they're going to be climbing back up from that position on or close to the ground. Going gently backwards, climbing the 300 feet. And when they get to height, nosing over again, pushing the aircraft down into that vertically down position, most uncomfortable. And crossing over into spiral descents. They have a new one now called the HMA-8 helicopter maritime attack. As I think they say at Yeovil, the helicopter most advanced. These are the HAS-3 models, still very capable. Turning to face each other. Now they're doing the carousel. Facing each other and spinning gently round in a beautifully choreographed and synchronized maneuver. They go all the way round through 360 degrees, requires enormous concentration. Gentle, slow ballet. Another nose over coming down and spiraling outwards. Successful helicopter, the Lynx, first flew in 1971, developed in different versions for the Army and the Navy, AH-1 for the Army, HAS-2 for the Navy. These, as I said, are HAS-3. Now watch these pirouettes as they go gently waltzing their way down the display line and doing it in perfect synchronization. It's a bit as if they're geared together. Somebody said, why are they called the Black Cats? Because they're grey. Well, all Navy aeroplanes by and large are grey. It goes to the grey maritime fleet. And they're called the Black Cats because of the crest. Well, actually, as I was saying earlier, backwards out of that manoeuvre and then turning to run forwards again. These guys are prize winners at the 2002 Royal International 2003. They won the Best Display Award of everything at that enormous air show. That is the end of the Black Cats display from the Royal Navy, 702 Naval Air Squadron based in Yeovil. A quarter clover manoeuvre, bringing him back onto the B axis towards us, just aligning himself first of all on the VIP enclosure, getting the aircraft upside down. And this is another of those barrel rolls. This is a big, wide, lazy barrel. Shape the barrel lying along the axis of the display line. And Joey describing the outline of it. As he pulls away to the left, a half horizontal H manoeuvre. He gets 3/4 of the way around that loop. And as he comes on the down line back towards us, he rolls the aircraft the right way up. A slow turn in the middle of the display area now through 360 degrees. The air brake out at the back of the aircraft there, slowing it down. booster. Gets himself back onto the main display line, what we like to call the A axis of the display. I'm looking for a slow looping maneuver, power versus air brake. About 135 miles an hour, very slow. You can see the air brake at the back of the aircraft there, that big slabby thing sticking down. 135 miles an hour, and the top level is about 3,000 feet. Into the bottom of the cloud there. Incidentally, if you're looking with binoculars, do be careful not to look at the sun through your binoculars. That can be very dangerous. He was doing 407 miles an hour. The RAF's newest fighter was the Hawker Fury, a much earlier one with a biplane with a top speed of 207, so he doubled the speed virtually. So the Air Ministry called for these aircraft to be built as fighters. The prototype Spitfire K5054 flew from Eastleigh on the 5th of March 1936. But it was Sir Robert McLean who suggested it. First production Spitfire Mark I was eventually delivered to 19 Squadron of the Royal Air Force at Duxford in August 1938. So Squadron Leader Al Pinner flying the Spitfire for us today. This aircraft was actually the last Hurricane to be built in 1944. Flown for us today by the station commander at RAF Coningsby Group, Captain Bob Judson. Designed by Sidney Cam. We've of course already seen the Sea Fury and the Sea Hawk, later aircraft of his. A monoplane version of the original biplane Fury. By the time the Battle of Britain had started in August 1940, the RAF had 2,300 Hurricanes and about 1,380 Spitfires. its guns to bear on the target, and it was the first combat aircraft to exceed 300 miles an hour in level flight. Force's fabulous wartime bomber, the bomber that took the fight to the Germans at a time when there was no other way to fight back, the bomber that meant that flying from Britain they could actually attack the Germans deep into their country, the bomber that achieved all the extraordinary things that we know about, like the Dam Busters raid. And of course, the other thing that we're celebrating this year is the end of the war, in which Lancaster bombers conducted Operation Manna, when they dropped food from their bomb bays to the starving people of Amsterdam, and in fact to the rest of Holland. Now look, talking of that bomb bay, I believe the bomb doors are open now, and you get an idea of the enormous size of the bomb bay of this old bomber. Test pilot Alex Henshaw was one of the people who tested Lancasters at Castle Bromwich Aerodrome. He's mostly famous for testing Spitfires, but he used to do a complete roll in the Lancaster. Unbelievable, really. And he made sure that he kept the aircraft perfectly balanced. He used to leave his flying glove on the instrument panel so that he could check for never exceeding the 0G level. He even did a roll once in a Lancaster with someone standing behind him. Unbelievable stuff. First operational Lancaster squadron was number 44 at Waddington. The first operational bombing sortie was in March 1942 against Essen. Lancasters made 156,000 operational sorties. Something like 7,377 of them were built. 3,349 were lost on operations. That was 45% of the total number. Well, as promised, ladies and gentlemen, the Red Arrow's pilot left-hand side as you're looking at the airfield across the runway. Meanwhile, waiting on the runway to take off and enthrall us next is an amazingly exciting aeroplane, the Harrier GR7, which is truly an extraordinary machine. It's unique. It's the world's only operationally viable fighter that's capable of vertical and short takeoff and landing. It's 45 years ago now, in 1960, that this aircraft forebear, the Hawker P1127, first flew in the hopper. This aircraft has come a long way in those 45 years, and the extraordinary thing is, in all that time, no one else has been able to make the V-stall concept work satisfactorily for a fighter. Here it goes. Ending up turning left, and next time he comes past, he'll be flying past at 500 feet above the runway, upside down. Funny enough, you don't very often see Harriers upside down, so this is something slightly new, but it shows that it's just as aerobatic as any other aircraft. There he is, upside down, he being flight lieutenant this morning. Heroes flies for number 20 Reserve Squadron at Royal Air Force Wittering, which is the training unit for all Harrier pilots. Rolling fiercely as he comes towards us. Miles an hour, something like that. And he's going to do a rolling vertical landing, in fact a bounce. He's going to take the aircraft down onto the runway very slowly and bounce it straight back up again.
just 100 miles an hour. The slow speed, high off the pass. Over 70 computers controlling the onboard systems as Matt begins to pull back towards us. For a loop that's offset by 45 degrees away from the crowd. This will be the just 2.5 seconds. And so, ladies and gentlemen, for the last time, the Royal Air Force Typhoon. Helicopter display team. And there you go, the crossover brake, 90-degree turn to the left and right in synchronisation. While Neil comes up to a 90-degree pedal turn, putting the nose directly up. Once you can see just sky, he then puts in full pedal, turns it 180 degrees, watching 90 degrees down to the ground, and then out towards crowd rear. At the same time, the gazelles left and right pull up the same 90 degrees, they then put in the same pedal turn, and point down to the ground in synchronisation. Flying in now for a 270-degree turn towards yourself, then running out to crowd rear. We're also very pleased today to have our sister squadron down, 664, in the newest acquisition to the British Army, the Apache. And if you want to go and have a chat to them, it is one fantastic machine. 664 have just become operational, so they're all deployable around the world, taking their aircraft to any place that the Army, or indeed any of us, need. He's going to sit there, watch, make sure that you're all waving at him and that you're all looking. He's then going to perform a manoeuvre that only two things in the world can do. One being Captain Neil Bishop, and the second one, the Lynx he's flying today. He's actually going to backflip the aircraft from a stationary position. He's going to use the power of the twin gem engines, pull a stick back and backflip. So if you've got your cameras, this is the only time you'll see it in this aircraft with Neil flying it. There he goes, straight over the top, using the tail as his centre point, and then coming down, accelerating away to about 100 miles an hour. Neil, Dave, both qualified helicopter instructors down at Middle Wallop, doing a wing over, coming back and crossing a crowd centre about 30 feet apart as they pass you. There they go up, they now start to turn, pull it round onto its back, diving down and accelerating. They can only just see each other now. And Staff Sergeant Grant Elgar will now turn away, about 30 feet away, running out to depth, and they will perform a synchronised pedal turn before coming back to work backwards. So there they are, moving back about 80 miles an hour. Neil has to hold it. With the wind today, he's got a wind coming from his left-hand side, which is trying to blow him away from you, so he's working quite hard to keep it in. At the moment, the team leader on the right-hand side, or the southern side, and Gazelle 5 will be working to stay within approximately 30 feet of each other. Wind coming across will be putting a downwash onto W2L Scott blade and causing him quite a lot of 150 feet. Once he's stabilised, they'll then pull in that end who got the shot last time. He's doing it the other way round so you can get different angles. There are not many people who've got a photo at the top of the link, so this is a prime opportunity. There he goes, straight over the top. 4.5 tons now drops out of the sky, and Neil gently and progressively pulls in the power to stop it around 300 feet, accelerating out to the left for another phase. All the pilots here today have been working very hard to make it a really enjoyable show for you today, and I think they probably achieved it. It's been fantastic. And Wing Commander Bill's put on a fantastic show. So now we need a bit so. If all the chaps would cheer for the first one, Captain Al Rickers and W2Al Scott, the team leader, and all the ladies, if you'd like to cheer for Staff Sergeant Grant Elgar and Staff Sergeant Jim Lecornu. And whoever's the best at the end of the season will get a little prize off me. So there they go, they're putting 90 degrees nose up. Al will now pull the bunt. They push the nose forward 180 degrees. Lots of negative G in here. They then fall out of the sky. At the same time, John, Jim, pull up. 90 degrees nose down, and they accelerate away. The pair's bunt, and behind them, Neil, not to be outdone, comes back in about 135 miles an hour. He's going to perform another loop for you. As I was saying, the ground crewman on the tents, Sergeant Phil Costello, is more than happy to speak to us, as are the 664 guys on the ground. They'll tell you all the different jobs. They can be refueling the Gazelle one day, the next day they'll be rearming the 5 will go in succession. They're then going to do a 360 degree vertical turn to face the same direction, all being at the 4 points of the compass or 4 points of the clock at any time. So you'll have one at 12, one at 3, one at 6 and one at 9. You can now see this facing all the way through. So having seen the black caps in their close formation and really good low level ground work, you'll now see the other spectrum helicopter flying full aerobatics in close formation. There's Neil looking at this fantastic sight. He's looking down, and there they go. Pull, go, go. Sat behind Staff Sergeant Jim Lecornu is now sitting there with all the dirty air from the Gazelle, so he's got to use the maximum power of the Gazelle to pull them round. As they come round 360 degrees, they now accelerate down to the ground, trying to keep themselves in formation. Neil, not to be outdone, now pulls it over for the final backflip before the Gazelles and the Lynx run away to crowd right before landing. So, on behalf of the Director Army Aviation, our display
designed and built by Augusta of Italy and GKN Westland of UK, which is known as European Helicopter Industries, EH101. go. Now he's actually going to stop. Now, I may be wrong here because I can't see, but I think something might have been unloaded from the aircraft there, but maybe you'll let me know. You see the undercarriage is retracted very quickly and he goes straight up into a steep wing over. Take 24 combat-equipped troops or 4.5 tons of freight, and of course that could include vehicles. The Royal Air Force has got 22 of these aircraft. 99 of them have been ordered by Japan, Canada, the UK and Italy. There's the pitch over, and it looks kind of vicious on a big helicopter like that, doesn't it? Based at the station at RAF Benson in Oxfordshire. Most of its career this squadron spent in Hong Kong, flying Whirlwind and Wessex helicopters. That stopped when Hong Kong was handed back in '97. But the squadron aircraft still carry the flash of 48 Gurkha Brigade, recognition of their long association with the brigade in Hong Kong. There's a bow, which signifies that the display of the 28 Squadron helicopter is more or less ended. Yeah, I was mentioning earlier that the C-130J is so much more fuel efficient, it doesn't need those tanks. That's how you tell the difference between this kind of C-130E and a J. So there's the ramp open, there's the turn coming in, big angles of bank, and I think we might... There's the reverse pitch, the aircraft rocking in the crosswind, coming to a very quick stop, and soon to be going backwards. I guess the boot must be opening, I can't see, maybe you can see it from where you are. See the crest of 40 Squadron on the tail, the compass goes. 40 Squadron based at Wanirapai, near Auckland. Now in a minute the pitch of the propellers being turned into forward pitch again. You don't put the brakes on when you're taxiing backwards in an aircraft like this because it falls on its bottom if you do. So you put the engine back into forward gear and the thing stops and then accelerates away and gets immediately airborne again. There's the acceleration starting now. That's not far off 90 degrees of bank either. madness of the 40,000-pound thrust of the DHL 757. Coming in straight towards us now and pulling up for another of those quarter clover manoeuvres. Hope you noticed as he went by the lovely tiger colour scheme, because this is a tiger squadron. This is a sort of equivalent of the Hawk. It's about 10 years older than the Hawk, first flew in '63. Saab in Sweden, of course, also used by the Swedish Air Force, called the SK-60 there. So, the big walkety machine that should... I think we may be able to hear from Flight Lieutenant Cy Cooney before too long. He's sitting in the left-hand seat in the aircraft. It's in helicopters, unlike fixed wing, the captain sits on the right-hand side. It's amazing, you can see those rotors go in different directions, and when it comes towards you, you can see that they're separated by height, but of course there's a big overlap between them, and just imagine how difficult it is to make sure they don't bang into each other. Amazing piece of engineering. Right, coming into the center of the display area. Said a 60-degree angle of bank there, Cy Cooney, and a low-speed spiral. I'm going to push up from high speed, run out, to pedal turn right. So watch for the pedal turn that he mentioned there. There it goes, the whole long body of the aircraft, 51 feet length of it, turning round. Quite extraordinary, really. Executing at a reasonably high speed. Lose all the energy by spinning it round, and there it is, stopped stationary. I mean, normally when you want to stop a helicopter, you pull the nose up. That's the ground now, you should be able to see Dave on Crewman at the ramp. And we've got a very special guest on board. We've got Lord Edward of Speyside, the GR4 display mascot and charity prize for they from this season. So we give Lord Ted a big wave as we go left to right, right to left as you look at us. Sergeant Dave Parry, that is, on the ramp at the back there, with, as he said, Lord Edward of Speyside, the Tornado mascot. I don't know if they've stolen it or whether they've just been lent it to the display, because he's part of the charitable arrangements that the GR4 are making in conjunction with Speyside. Most vehicles can't do this. To get the thing down on just the two back wheels, it's a bit like doing a wheelie on a motorbike, but you can sustain it more or less as long as you like. So he's just running along in his famous taking dog act. they've closed the door because the draft will be something awful. "35 miles an hour backwards, climbing up to 400 feet.
The position in the cloud now would be a good time to look away. Don't be panicked by any of the manoeuvres the aircraft does, that's my job.
Yes, I think what he means is what's about to happen next.
Mustang Airlines, clear hold.
That's what he says, panic. I'm comfortable, I blame him. There, that amazing view of the rotors not clashing in the middle, quite extraordinary. Another 40-degree pitch up, the aircraft climbing very steeply and then nosing over again. Simon holding on to the seat there, taking off from the left. Turn off to our left as he comes back onto the display line. I think he may do a climbing victory roll, the kind of thing that we often used to see Spitfires and Hurricanes doing. So really these Mustangs, which were called Little Friends by the bombers, were instrumental in establishing Allied air superiority over the heart of Germany. And they also served with distinction in the Mediterranean and Pacific areas. More than 15,500 of these were built, and they served with 55 different air forces. At one stage a twin Mustang which they made by fitting two fuselages together with a common wing in the middle. It's called the F-82 and the United States Air Force bought 270 of them. There was also a turboprop version. Production lines were even opened up again in 1967 for that. Aircraft was built in 1944, never saw any action in the war, flown by the Canadians and eventually required by the Scandinavian Historic Flight in 1980, restored by Vintage Aircraft Limited in Colorado, flown across the Atlantic by Anders Sethos, current president of the SHF, to Norway. And this colour scheme is of the aircraft of one of the 8th Air Force aces, Colonel Clarence Bud Anderson, of the 357th Fighter Group.